All right, we've made it now to our last conversation of the night. In the last few months, the term Vishwamitra, or universal friend for India, that phrase has become the cornerstone of how we frame our approach, the role we want to play in the G20. How can India set the tone for a summit that is productive, one that actually is able to establish a truly common, unified agenda? To dive into this, our last conversation for the night, CNN News 18's Anand Narsiman in conversation with Shri Piyush Goyal ji, the Union Minister for Commerce and Industry, Food and Public Distribution. I'll wait a second. He is, of course, also the leader of the House in the Rajya Sabha.
Ladies and gentlemen, before even I sit down to have a conversation with sir, I profusely want to thank you, because amidst a thick of things, once again, he has taken the time to come and be here live with us at this G20 Town Hall. So may I request you to please welcome him with a warm round of applause. And thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Sir, namaste and Jai Hind. Soon after before the trade ministers meet concluded, we had a conversation. So let me first start with what was the net outcome of the trade ministers meet, and how is that going to reflect at the summit level talks?
Thank you, Anand, and compliments to CNN News 18 for organizing this town hall so that more and more people recognize the importance of the G20 presidency and the significant gains that India will have thanks to our ability to bring convergence amongst countries with diverse opinions, our ability to talk for the global south, the developing nations, less developed countries, and the convergence of ideas, particularly with regard to the development priorities of the world, is truly going to help not only India but people across the world. So I'm glad that you have given all of us an opportunity to deliberate and discuss on the huge potential outcomes of the G20. I met you just before the trade and investment ministers meeting concluded. I'm happy to share with you that we came up with some significant deliverables in that meeting. There were many items which were for the first time agreed upon by all the nations. For example, we gave a Jaipur call for action where we are hoping we'll be able to create opportunities for the MSMEs amongst all the G20 countries and invitee nations, and see how MSMEs get better data and information, which often is missing in their work. Similarly, we were able to look at creating a compendium of all the global value chains. There are so many different value chains. For example, mobile manufacturing is a huge global value chain where now people are looking for trusted partners. And India has started playing an increasingly important role in that chain. Like that, other developing countries, less developed countries also should get such opportunities. So we're going to be mapping such global value chains. Similarly, we talked about digitalization of trade documents. There's so many plethora of documents and such confusion in the entire trade, particularly the logistics trade, that very often small business persons lose out on this, on the ability to participate in international trade. We have all collectively agreed on digitalization of such trade, international trade documents, which will not only benefit trade, but also give India and our software companies and our IT companies business opportunities. So I think Jaipur really gave out a call for the entire world to converge on areas of mutual interest. And my own belief is that the Jaipur G20 ministerial is not only outcome oriented, but will be remembered for years to come as probably one of the most hospitable G20s that trade ministers have ever had. A G20 where India was able to present its soft power in a big way. A G20 in which we were able to bring convergence on trade issues amongst very diverse opinions, particularly amongst the developed countries and less developed countries. So truly very, very redeeming and satisfying for India.
PM Narendra Modi has spoken with Money Control and he's given an interview where he said that the fact that the Troika is with the developing nations, so Indonesia, India and Brazil, also shows that the focus is shifting and that we will champion the cause of developing nations. Your thoughts on that?
I think it's a great sign that the world recognizes that the developing nations will be the engine of growth for the future. India with 1.4 billion young population, our average age is still under 30. And for the next 30 years, we will continue to be a young nation with an average age under 30. And this is the period where India will drive global growth. We will be the engine of global growth. As aspirations of young India increase, as more and more youngsters start looking for the finer things of life, looking for ease of living, looking for comfort, and as income levels rapidly rise in India, we are going to be the demand driver for goods and services across the world. So I personally believe in the next 30 years, this young under 30 population of India is going to add at least $30 trillion to our GDP. At the very least, could be more. So by 2047, I see in the next 24 years, a $35 trillion Indian GDP, which will be the single largest opportunity for investors, and our own role in international trade will massively increase. Our soft power will be reflected across the world. And I'm happy to share with you the previous two engagements before I came here. I spent first almost 3 hours with the fashion industry of India. A huge potential which we can take across the world, which will help our artisans, our handloom weavers, our fashion designers, and can really create huge opportunities both for business and jobs. After that, I spent 2 hours with the service industry as a whole. Healthcare, education, tourism, the IT industry, NASSCOM was represented there. The MICE sector, where we are going to make rapid strides in the days to come. Gradually, the focus will be to get the world's biggest exhibitions and conferences and seminars in India. And we are building the ecosystem and infrastructure for that.
You have built the Bharat Mandapam, and we saw what happened there. I was privy to that around the sidelines of B20, that fantastic dinner, and you showcased. You're also the textile minister, so that fashion show was there. So the question was that time and again this conversation happens, that we want to do something with textiles, we want to do something with services. But are our entrepreneurs, our designers really taking the bite? Are they really ready to take the leap?
Well,
there seems to be a reluctance
I tell you, I started my conversation with the fashion designers by thanking them because the top designers were all in the room from various parts of India, absolutely the top designer. And they all acknowledged that it's probably the first time that they've all got together in one room. And we had invited 22. 21 of them participated.
Oh, fantastic.
And one who didn't come, by coincidence, somebody else came into the room. So we had a full house. And we had, let me tell you, a designer of the fame of Manish Malhotra who joined in from London because he was not in India. I'm just sharing with you the excitement in the industry, the confidence the industry has in Prime Minister Modi's leadership, and the fact that when Mr. Modi is presenting the soft power to the world, he means business. And when he presents, his government presents, the world will take note. And they acknowledge that it's the first time so many of them from, and all reputed names, have got together in one room. And by the way, what you saw that day
Yes.
was an exposition of Prime Minister Modi's 5F vision.
Yes.
He had articulated this way back when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat. The farm to fiber, fiber to fabric, fabric to fashion, and fashion to foreign. This 5F vision is going to define India's foray into the world in the textile sector. It's going to provide millions of our young boys and girls with new opportunities. It's going to give a new lease of life to our artisans, to our weavers, to people associated with the khadi sector, handloom sector. And going forward, I think it's going to add tremendous value and a value proposition for the entire textile sector.
Sir, आप ट्रेड मिनिस्टर भी हैं, कॉमर्स मिनिस्टर हैं, आप चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट भी हैं. So I don't need to explain to you return on investment and profit and loss. So lot of the questions are around how competitive are we. So from the Indian entrepreneur, manufacturer, designer point of view, am I going to be competitive in the international market? And from the international point of view, is the India market not just attractive because of potential, but also in terms of doing business? So where are we there?
Of course, India doesn't market itself only as a cost competitive nation. We are cost competitive. Our GDP, even on a purchasing power parity PPP, today is really 3 or 4x of our nominal GDP, which means that effectively for every rupee that we spend in India, we get 3 times or 4 times value. And therefore, India is a very, very valuable proposition for its cost competitiveness. Having said that, what we are marketing today is the competence, the skills, and the talent of young India. What we are marketing today is a stable political story. What we are marketing today is decisive leadership, willing to reform, willing to perform, and hence transform India's future. What we are marketing today is our ability to meet the highest quality standards. What we are marketing today is trust. The fact that the world trusts India, Indian business, Indian people, Indian political leadership. Trust is what is opening the doors for India. Trust is what is getting the world to sit up and notice the India story. And that is what is our strength today, and that is what I think going forward is going to power the growth engine of India to a $35 trillion developed nation by 2047.
So that was going to be my next question. Do they really trust us? Because especially if you look at developing nations, African nations, nations in the Asia-Oceania region, whoever they have relied on has come back and stabbed them or used them, exploited them. Why should they trust
India? The good part about India is that India has never been an expansionist country. India has always been a friendly country. India has never tried to expand its borders. India has never had hidden subsidies or hidden laws and principles of working. Everything we do in India is transparent. For as little as 10 cents, you can get any paper in the government of India. Our openness is legendary. And therefore the world knows that we do what we say and we say what we do. And that is our strength. We make promises which we can perform on, which we can deliver on. A case in point is when COVID hit India and the rest of the world. Almost throughout the world you saw disruption. Yeah. India saw orderly transition. Even when we had the lockdown, we engaged with our industry, we engaged with our service sector, so much so that through the lockdown and the entire 2-year COVID period, we did not let down a single international commitment that India or Indian business made to the world. In fact, we quickly rejigged our work processes. We allowed work from home faster than anybody else in the world, and therefore there was no disruption in provision of services to any international player. And today, India is a part of the services chain of almost every global 500 company or Fortune 500 company. Nobody has ever complained that for a minute also, India saw disruption. Our power was up and running throughout, which means coal and all the raw materials were reaching power plants. They all ran through COVID. Railways ran through COVID, so there was no disruption in logistics. Trucking was allowed liberally. There was absolutely no disruption in our logistics system. Factories which produced for export were given permissions to run, of course, with due COVID protocol.
Yes.
So India earned that trust. And I remember at the G20 summit in Rome in 2021, when Prime Minister Modi first articulated his concept of a trusted partner, that India will be the trusted partner of the world. Every country in the room acknowledged that, and every speaker after Prime Minister Modi alluded to the fact that they look upon India as a trusted partner.
But sir, ये उसूल भी है ना कि जब कोई नया आता है कहता है मेरे पे ट्रस्ट करो, then the existing one से देखते हैं ये धंधा कैसे करता है. So how do we counter that, especially when we want to work with such nations also?
हमने तो परफॉर्म करके ये ट्रस्ट कमाए. हमने सिर्फ वादा नहीं किया, हमने जो कहा वो किया. So we have earned that trust, and we have the confidence in 140 crore Indians that they will continue to maintain that trust of the world. After all, ये सरकार अकेले थोड़ी कर सकती थी. हमने तो enabling environment बनाया. We have very senior people here. We have Rekha ji sitting here. She knows how quickly we reject into work from home and how everything went smoothly throughout the COVID period. We have people from the pharma industry sitting in the room today. They can be a beacon of hope for the world because we did not let down a single country which needed medicines that were available in India. Even when we restricted medicines, it was not with the intention not to supply. The intention was that traders and big business doesn't corner the available medicines in India and profit from it. We wanted to make sure the less developed countries or developing countries also get equal medicines as much as the developed countries had. So while we supplied to Europe and America, we made sure that every Pacific Island nation, every Caribbean nation, every African nation who needed any medicine, who needed vaccines, our neighbors, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, nobody ever had to be concerned that they will have to pay an arm and a leg for medicines, vaccines. In fact, more than 100 countries got medical supplies free of charge from India through our government-to-government funding. And I must, for your viewers to know why we have earned that trust, share a small story, if you give me 2 or 3 minutes.
Please, go ahead, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, I received a call from the G20 Sherpa of Germany, who was also the advisor to the then Chancellor, Honorable Angela Merkel. His name was Henrik, Lars Henrik. I'm giving the name so that it's verifiable. Lars Henrik called me up and we were discussing some medicines and some medical supplies that they required. So he gave out a laundry list. I was making my notes and I was assuring him, because I knew most of those things were available, that we'll make those supplies available. Even before the conversation ended, he said, Chancellor Merkel has asked me to also convey to you that we would like to give a 35 million euro grant to support India in its fight against COVID. I said, Henrik, that's not for me to discuss with you. It's not my remit. That's something which you will have to discuss or offer to the Ministry of Finance. And you can discuss with them what terms, what you want to give, what you don't want to give. What we are discussing is your medical supplies. And there's no linkage between the two. It's not as if I'll give you those medical supplies.
It's not transactional.
Because you're giving us this grant. He said, no, Piyush, there's more to it. We also want to give a 200 million euro long-term development finance, development aid to India, which you can repay over a very long period, and probably it was interest-free or something. I said, Henrik, you're missing the point. I can't discuss this. It's not my remit. And the medicines are not contingent to all of this. You can discuss that separately with finance. And to this date, friends, Anand, to this day I don't know whether India accepted that 35 million or that 200 million. I don't know what happened about it. Did that conversation proceed? Whether they offered it again, whether we accepted it, I don't know. I've never bothered to find out. Because what we gave them at our regular prices, no profiteering, was medical supplies which Germany needed. They got all of that. There was no quid pro quo. And that is why I say, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has brought a leadership to this country which has earned the trust of the world.
Very well said there, sir. And if this trust manifests and we are able to deliver and continue to live upon that, it's only good for us. But my point of view was not just from the internal perspective that we will deliver or the 140 crore Indians will deliver. It's about the others who are also watching us grow. And on the face of it, they will tell you, हाँ, अच्छा, करो, करो. And then पीछे से they'll say, देखते हैं कैसे करता है. You know, so how do you deal with that? And do you see that happening? And when you enter the room, you know what the intent is. So how do you work through that, especially when we are positioning ourselves as a bridge nation? I'll come to that later. Ji.
Anand, of late, a lot of countries and a lot of group of countries have been engaged with India and increasingly continue to want to engage with India, to have free trade agreements with us, to expand their trading and business relations with us, to make it easier to do two-way trade with India. All of these are signs of an economy that is being respected and an economy which holds tremendous potential as the world perceives it today. So I mean, I have nations approaching me literally every couple of weeks. Another nation adds on to the list of countries who want to negotiate a free trade agreement with India. We don't have any more bandwidth. Half the times we are struggling with two shifts. So I have a person negotiating with UK in the morning and possibly concluding the final agreement with Australia in the late evening when it's morning hours in Australia.
The Australian ambassador is here. He's in the...
So we are all the time kind of literally struggling, giving dates and engaging with different countries. That's the level of demand to expand business with India that we are finding across the world. And this is a two-way traffic. This will help Indian businesses. This will help, I'm sure, greater engagement on both sides in different areas. Everybody has some competitive strengths. Michael Porter's theory does hold true.
Correct.
That each country, each nation, the comparative advantage of nations, everybody has a competitive edge. We want to market certain things, they want to market certain things. It'll be a win-win, obviously, for both sets of negotiating parties. Otherwise, an agreement can never last long. So that is one signal that people want to engage more. Now, as regards the naysayers or as regards those people who are always worried and who see a devil in everything that's happening, those who are worried and negotiate from a position of weakness, from a position of being scared, they will never grow in life. So I always tell Indian industry, this is our time under the sun. Actually, our time under the sun and the moon today. To engage with the world, engage with confidence, and this newfound confidence that India has and which we have developed over the last few years is something which is truly very, very endearing. It builds a lot of confidence in Indian business and industry. And I can assure you, government of the day, led by Prime Minister Modi, businesses, led by their various chambers, their export promotion councils, captains of industry, big and small, our MSME sectors, which is doing fantastic work. Everybody is today in a resurgent mode. Everybody is looking at the world as an opportunity to capture.
Sir, I have limited time. Two more questions from me, but I have the Australian High Commissioner with us, so he's got a question for you. So let's take that. Good evening, sir. Thank you. Yes, please.
Good evening, Anand, and thank you for the opportunity, and great to see you again, Minister Goyal. You're right, at the Jaipur meeting that you put on was extremely hospitable, and I and all the delegates enjoyed it. You're also right that countries like Australia and our business people are taking India seriously. How couldn't you, when fifth largest economy of the world growing at 7.8% per annum? That's something. But my question is about the way in which people in this country will see your G20. I mean, I accept your digitalisation agenda and I accept your compendium, but they're removed from the interests of ordinary people, aren't they? How does the man and woman in the street perceive this? The farmer in the field, the service worker at her desk, the fisherman with his net. What do they get from this?
High Commissioner, very clearly, the people of India are very smart. Otherwise, we wouldn't be the fifth largest economy, aspiring to become the third largest in the next 4 or 5 years, and beyond, even higher. The people of India also understand that when the country grows, opportunities grow, our young children will get better and better future for their children, for themselves and for the generations beyond. Our fishermen recognize that as we expand trading relations with Australia, with UK, with EU, with Canada, with the US through the IPEF, with the GCC countries, with EFTA, the Switzerland and other neighboring countries consortium, as Peru, Uruguay, everybody wants to increase relations and get into FTAs with India. All of these will open the doors for the fishermen to sell their produce, for our farmers to sell their produce to the world. As food processing grows in India, we'll obviously be able to meet the increasing needs of a growing middle class, expected to cross 700 million by 2030. Of the 13.5 crore or 135 million people who've come out of poverty in the last 5 years, they all want good quality products. They all want packaged foods. And our exports are also growing. All of this ultimately translates to our farmer getting a better value for his produce. So I think the people of India recognize, and they've seen it in action. Look at our sugar industry. Our sugar industry, which used to permanently be in distress. You had people, farmers coming out of the streets to recover their sugarcane dues. And many of them are not getting their dues for 2 years. In the last 9 years, the Modi government has carefully crafted the ethanol program. We are aspiring to be about 12% ethanol blending in petrol this year, and to grow to 20% in the next 2 or 3 years.
3 years.
Also, now looking at flexi engines in collaboration with Brazil, so that we can go right up to 100% ethanol powered vehicles. Now all of these are well crafted programs, and they're not a single agenda program. This government thinks multifaceted. Now look, we are helping our sugarcane farmers. They get paid in their dues in time.
Yeah.
Last season's dues are 99% plus paid. Our sugar industry has got revived. Half of them used to be sick units. All of them have turned profitable. They now make their own energy. They do biodiesel. They make ethanol. And of course also supply to the wine industry, which we hope will grow with collaborations with Australian technology. That's what the grape farmers were so excited about when we signed up with you for the Ekta agreement. Our ethanol program also helps us save foreign exchange, because that's precious for us in a trade deficit and a crude oil deficit country. So we are saving billions of dollars in our foreign exchange, which we had to otherwise import as we blend more and more ethanol. We are providing jobs to Indians who are working in these ethanol factories. We've given a big boost to CAPEX, where these ethanol factories have come up. So this government is not unitary in its thinking. It's binary. It's rather multifaceted in every program that we come up.
Sir, I've run out of time, but I'm going to beg indulgence. There are a lot of hands up, so can we just take another 5 minutes? One more question is what we will take, sir. And then there is something next to you, which I'll request your indulgence on. But yes, please.
Sir, I'm Yogendra Kapoor, Chartered Accountant by profession and an economist. As you have just said, that the balance of power in terms of growth engine is shifting towards global south, which includes India as well. My question to you is why then still the international financial institutions are skeptical in funding the projects in down south? And how can India change that perception?
I think a lot of the international financial institutions, and for that matter, many organizations around the world, if I may use a term, live with the hesitations of history. They continue to live in the past. They have not yet recognized and realized the fast transforming nature of Indian economy, the people of India, their talent and their abilities. That is why we in the government are now embarking on a massive outreach program, taking missions across the world. We are engaging in attracting people from across the world to come to India. After all, the G20 was held in over 60 locations. Over 100,000 people came to India. We had big businesses and captains of industry from across the world, ministers from across the world, and now the leaders from across the world will come and see the new India. All of these experiences will filter as they go back to their countries to other people. We are in the next few months going to have some of the largest trade shows and expositions. Today, I have asked the services sector to have the world's largest services exhibition and expo in India in the next 6-7 months. We are going to have the world's largest textile show in February next year. We are also contemplating a large food expo in the next 6 months. Now, these are all going to be the world's largest, nothing short of that. The world is going to see India in a new light. We've already got Bharat Mandapam and the entire complex there rejuvenated to meet the needs of world-class exhibitions. We have a huge complex which is going to be soon unveiled. Details will follow very shortly.
Dwarka.
We have, well, a lot of things are happening. India is coming out of the shadows, and India will lead the world's recognition of the global south as the demand center and the engine of growth in the future. I think times are changing. They're changing fast. We need to have that self-confidence, and we need to work with the ability and our desire being boundless. We need not let the past hold back our future.
Ladies and gentlemen, fantastic answer there. Sir, I've run out of time, but I've got just 6 questions which are going to be very straightforward. Sir, this is yes and no, and I'm going to guess. So all you need to do is yes or no. You don't need to answer anything, and if you don't feel like offering any comment, you can keep it down. Or danda bhi padega baad mein, wo theek hai. Sir, my first question, are we hopeful of focusing on consensus despite conflict at the G20 statement? There is an ACTA with Australia. Are we confident of a free trade agreement with the UK? Is it in the works? Is it going to be announced soon? Yes. Has the FTA with Canada gone into cold storage?
We are reviewing the progress on that, and it will take some time before we restart discussions on Canada.
Conversations with the EU on ACTA?
Fantastic. The progress is unbelievable. In fact, my colleague, Minister Valdis Dombrovskis, was here for the G20 ministerial. And after that, we ran through the entire FTA discussions. And you'll be happy to know that in the history of EU, there has never been any other FTA engagement where they've had as many rounds as they've had with India in 1 year. It's a historical first for the EU. And we are making outstanding progress.
Fantastic. Is India now being seen as the problem, as the solution and not the problem at WTO?
Not only in WTO, in every multilateral engagement. And right since 2014, Paris, COP21, India led the world initiative. Without India, there would have been no Paris Agreement at COP21. Glasgow, the COP at Glasgow COP26, I think it was. It was India's net zero commitment at 2070 that stole the show. It is India's life mission on sustainability, lifestyle for environment, which is today the accepted norm and the future, where sustainability, circularity, reuse, recycle, and sustainable lifestyles. We can't have the West preach about sustainability and continue to have a 14-inch Domino's pizza, half of which goes into the dustbin. We can't have the kind of wasteful consumption that the developed world continues to have, pardon me, High Commissioner, and then preach about sustainability to us. So India is a demander and a leader and the provider of solutions to the world.
So my next question is on another role which we have not focused on today. Is there a surprise between the 18th and the 22nd in Parliament? You can say yes or no.
Surprises are meant to be surprises.
So you can say yes or no.
Surprises are meant to be surprises.
So do you know what the surprise is? You can say yes or no.
No, but if I tell you, then where would be
No,
the...
sir, you
I
can
think
tell
your
me.
wife has never kept a surprise birthday party for you.
So I'm just asking you if you know or if you don't know.
Has your wife ever kept a surprise birthday party for you?
Yes, yes.
I had kept one for my wife also, though I got Big Macs. She said, never ever surprise me again.
Are you going to tell us what the surprise is?
Did you tell your wife the surprise?
Ladies and gentlemen, Shri Piyush Goyal.